On this edition for Sunday, September 29th, the whistleblower fallout continues. In our signature segment, China's super rich and the growing wealth gap. And the power of music on the brain. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Srinivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The impeachment inquiry into a whistleblower's charges that President Trump pressured Ukraine to investigate one of his Democratic opponents will be the subject of congressional hearings this week. This morning, President Trump's personal attorney Rudy Giuliani said he would only cooperate with the House impeachment inquiry if his client agreed.
I have to be guided by my client, frankly. I'm a lawyer. It's his privilege, not mine. If he decides that he wants me to testify, of course I'll testify, even though I think Adam Schiff is an illegitimate chairman. He has already prejudged the case.
The chair of the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Adam Schiff, said he has not decided if he will call Giuliani before the committee, but Schiff said he does expect the House to get, quote, unfiltered testimony from the whistleblower who filed the complaint, quote, very soon.
We are taking all the precautions we can to make sure that we do so. We allow that testimony to go forward in a way that protects the whistleblower's identity, because as you can imagine, with the president issuing threats like we ought to treat these people who expose my wrongdoing as we used to treat traitors and spies, and we used to execute traitors and spies, you can imagine the security concerns here.
At the heart of the impeachment inquiry facing President Trump is a report from a still anonymous whistleblower. The president and many of his supporters are demanding a name and even threatening severe punishment. But what rights does a whistleblower have, and how did the federal law that protects those who point out fraud and abuse in government come to be? Joining me now is John Phillips, a founding partner at the law firm Phillips & Cohen and a former ambassador to Italy in the Obama administration. He helped author the modern-day False Claims Act, which protects government whistleblowers. Thanks for joining us. So what was the design here when you came up with this act? If you saw fraud and abuse, that you would have a safe way to report it?
Yes. I mean, the concern that led to the enactment of this law, an amendment to this law back in 1986, was the rampant fraud being committed against the government in all areas where the government spends money, and so little of it was being recovered. So Senator Grassley, Republican from Iowa, was the sponsor of this bill. I worked closely with him to encourage whistleblowers, people on the inside of these companies, whether they're a defense contractor, a healthcare provider under Medicare, or whatever. People who see and witness fraud against the government, which was rampant and commonplace because the odds of getting exposed were so small then, that if you come forward, we'll protect you, and in this circumstance, you'll even potentially get some compensation if it's successful at the end. And here we are, 32 years later. It's been a spectacular success. The recoveries now through whistleblower complaints represent 85% of all the recoveries the Treasury gets every year.
Is there a distinction between whether you are whistleblowing on, say, a defense contractor or a tobacco company versus somebody in the intelligence community that's doing this inside the administration?
Well, that's why Congress in 1998 passed this law, very specifically saying the steps that you must take in order to invoke this law, and we will protect you. If you do this, we'll protect your anonymity, which is sometimes very hard to do, and we'll protect you from any other actions taken against you, retaliatory actions.
But the Department of Justice, William Barr, has said there's no there. By reading what are the notes from the phone call, he says this wasn't meriting any further investigation.
I find that just in reading now what's available to the public and us reading that transcript, a pretty preposterous statement. And what's like saying what's black is white. Look at what transpired. Look at all the breadcrumbs leading up to that. This wasn't just the one phone call. It was a long process, clearly undertaken by the administration to get Ukraine to participate in digging up dirt on his opponent and using the leverage of his office and taxpayer money to basically extort that.
What about the definition of hearsay versus primary witness, whether the whistleblower has firsthand knowledge or whether this is a compilation of things? Because he says about a half dozen people had given this information to him.
Hearsay is a technical term used in a court proceeding when you're trying to get a witness's testimony blocked because he's not the original source of that information. They want to hear from the original person to come in and say, what can you tell us about your direct knowledge? But hearsay is often admitted in court. This has nothing to do with what's going on here. My perception of this, of having represented our firm, thousands of whistleblowers in the last 30 years, this is not just a single, I'm just speculating somewhat here, not a single person stepping forward, but he does reference 6 people in the intelligence apparatus within the White House with whom he is, or she, has consulted. Clearly, they were discussing, in my view, this together, and he stepped forward to present their collective knowledge. I'm guessing that the Inspector General that investigated this pursuant to the law did probably, it's not been reported yet, interview those 6 people because he would have provided the names under confidentiality basis. And those 6 people presumably corroborated what he said. But the real test in terms of whether this law works or not works is not just this case, but will it encourage others who see similar misconduct be willing to take the risk and step forward.
All right, John Phillips, who helped author the modern-day False Claims Act. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
For the latest on U.S. trade negotiations with China, visit pbs.org/newshour. For most of the last century, getting rich in China was against the rules. The communist government's planned economy saw to that. But things changed in the 1980s when then-leader Deng Xiaoping's rallying cry was to get rich is glorious. Today, President Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign has resulted in a crackdown on ostentatious displays of wealth. It comes with one clear message: a life of luxury must come second to Communist Party loyalty. All this as China produces billionaires faster than any country in the world. With support from the Pulitzer Center, we continue our series, China, Power and Prosperity, with NewsHour special correspondent Katrina Yu reporting from Beijing.
Their pacing is precise, their spacing is seamless, and their pores are perfect. This is China's first Butler Academy, and they're practicing the exact vintage pour. Their 6-week course includes centuries-old traditions, but these students aren't being trained to serve old wealth. Their future employers will be members of China's new rich. In communist China, millionaires are being minted faster than anywhere else. They're filling harbors with multi-million-dollar yachts, watching laser light shows at $3,000 a night hotels, and buying luxuries. Sarah Jane Ho knows all about the possibilities and pressures of being wealthy in China.
Average price here is probably $1,000 US. Not too expensive at all.
The 34-year-old has been called China's millennial Martha Stewart and founded the country's first finishing school. Many of her students are second-generation rich, born in the 80s and 90s, and born into millions.
In no other country than China have you had such a great amount of change in such a short amount of time. And now they have so much money that the last thing they want to do is see their kids go through any kind of hardship. For the kids, a lot of it is about individuality. They want to spend on something that other people don't have. See-through, good for summer.
Sarah Jane is an expert on where to shop,
Ooh,
what to wear,
that's cute.
and where to be seen.
Hokkaido scallop?
At an upmarket Italian restaurant in downtown Shanghai, Sarah Jane shares her Michelin-starred meal with her social media followers.
Tastes so good. 这个叫做 rosé wine.
特别喜欢吃海胆 sea urchin taco.
Lunch costs about $400. That's the equivalent of a monthly middle-income salary.
买单。
When you make so much money in such a short amount of time, it actually places a lot of pressure on an individual. There's no old money in China because of historical reasons. A lot of people were very poor. I mean, everybody was very poor up until the 90s.
Accumulating wealth in communist China was once considered counter-revolutionary. Mao Zedong came to power in 1949, vowing to eliminate class and abolish capitalism. Affluent families lost their wealth, and many lost their lives as Mao pursued his utopian vision of communism. That vision resulted in the deaths of tens of millions from famine and left almost 90% of the population living in extreme poverty. That all changed in the 1980s, when leader Deng Xiaoping loosened state control over China's economy and permitted private enterprise, reforms which would turn the country into the world's second-largest economy. 40 years later, Chinese cities have become shopping meccas, catering to China's rapidly expanding middle class and upper class. Chinese consumers make up a third of the $1.3 trillion global luxury market, and luxury spending is expected to grow by over 10% this year. It's a trend Tao Liang has in the bag. The 26-year-old is known as Mr. Bags, an entrepreneur and one of the country's top online influencers. He has millions of loyal fans who hang on his every recommendation. During an online campaign last year, his company sold $500,000 worth of bags in just 6 minutes.
Definitely, some Chinese girls buy bags because they want big brands. They want people to know they're rich. They want people to know they're tasteful. But nowadays, I think a lot of Chinese women, when they buy bags, they really buy bags because they want to pursue happiness.
International brands are working hard to contribute to the happiness and handbag collections of Chinese consumers, but they don't always get it right.
欢迎收看 Dolce and Gabbana.
Last November, Dolce & Gabbana stoked fury after releasing this advertising campaign in China.
小个形状夹起一根甜卷儿，对你们来说还是太大了吗？
Chinese social media users accuse the brand of reinforcing racist stereotypes. Consumer backlash resulted in Dolce & Gabbana being banned from Chinese online retailers. Last month, Versace, Givenchy, and Coach issued apologies after printing T-shirts describing Hong Kong and Taiwan as separate from China. Fallouts with foreign fashion labels have demonstrated the power of China's increasingly wealthy population. But being wealthy in China has its limits. When it comes to the Chinese government, being too rich can be risky. Chinese President Xi Jinping has launched an anti-corruption campaign and overseen investigations into the country's wealthiest and most powerful. More than 100,000 have been jailed for embezzlement and bribery. Others fired for throwing lavish parties and indulging in expensive liquor. Ostentatious wealth is regularly denounced on state media and primetime TV.
Hi, say hi.
The hit television show Father, Where Are We Going? Was cancelled because of its portrayal of spoiled second-generation rich children.
Yeah, this is so cute.
Commentator and academic Zhu Dake says it's in the government's interest to rein in crazy rich behavior.
The Chinese government knows that if rich people show off their wealth too much, it will deepen the impression of social polarization by ordinary people. The Chinese government requires rich people to be low-key and poor people to be contented with their life. Then the country would be stable.
China's ultra-wealthy must closely align themselves with the government. Jack Ma, a tech tycoon with an estimated $40 billion fortune, is a member of the Communist Party.
I feel proud for what President Xi said yesterday.
Movie star Jackie Chan routinely defends Beijing and attacks international critics. Last month, the Hong Kong resident described pro-democracy protests in the city as sad and depressing and called himself a protector of the Chinese flag.
You must firstly be on the same side as the government, so the government can feel they made you successful. All of the successful people should stand on the same side with the government. If you do not support them, they will make you unsuccessful.
The government has vowed to eradicate poverty by 2020, saying it's lifted 83 million rural poor out of poverty over the last 6 years. But according to the World Bank, many more remain behind. 40% of the country's population, 500 million people, continue to live on less than $5.50 a day. And while some struggle to put a roof over their head, others build roofs for their dogs. Zhou Tianxiao spent $500,000 on a pet paradise for his border collie Sila, complete with a training gym, a dog-themed party space, and an indoor doggy pool. Zhou Tianxiao grew his fortune selling pet products online. He showed us a wall decorated with photos of his best friend, who he credits with lifting him out of depression.
It's like raising a child. I have deep affection for my dog. I rarely take photos of myself. When someone asks me, how should I introduce you, I say, call me Siler's dad. He's integrated into every part of my life.
In China, the richest 1% own a third of the country's wealth. Zhou says he's bombarded online by critics who question his choice to splurge on a dog while millions must fight to survive. But the only opinion he cares about is Sila's.
He never cares about who you are or your social status. People think I'm some silver spoon kid wasting my parents' money by giving my dog a life of luxury. That's not true. I've worked hard and experienced challenges.
And as the gap between China's rich and poor continues to grow, Zhou refuses to apologize for his lifestyle.
It's normal to be criticized. I don't care. Part of the money you earn pays for the criticism you bear. My mind is at peace.
In China, it seems there's very little money can't buy. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Katrina Yu in Beijing.
Have you ever wondered why you sometimes get a tingling feeling when you hear a certain piece of music? We did, and we thought we could ask a musician for the answer, or we could ask a neuroscientist, but then we decided why not ask someone who is both. We found one in Indre Viscontis, who is a professor at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music and the author of How Music Can Make You Better.
I'm Indre Viscontis. I'm an opera singer and a cognitive neuroscientist. So I'm really interested in how the brain changes with experience or with learning, especially when it comes to music. Music can make us better in terms of healing our bodies, in terms of exercising better, even rewiring our brains after an injury. So if I had to sum up the brain in one sentence and what it's really good at, I would say it's really good at predicting the future. We are essentially pattern recognizing machines. Every great musician knows that a great performance involves building up tension to an eventual release. And that's because that taps into our pattern recognition apparatus in the brain. Our brain is trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So often we love music that has a predictable pattern, maybe that we've heard before, but that either delays that release of tension, like Barber's Adagio for strings. You know, the melody just weaves around the final climax over and over and over again. Or where it surprises us. We think the melody is going to go in one direction and then it kind of goes in a different direction. Bohemian Rhapsody is a great example where we have one expectation of a result and then it changes. And it changes drastically. And that's one of the reasons people love that song. We see this kind of buildup of the expectation of reward happening in our reward system in the brain with the neurotransmitter release, etc. And then when we actually get to the climax of the piece, we see this release of the pleasure chemical dopamine, for example, in the nucleus accumbens, the part of the brain that is involved in liking something. So earworms are a term that we use for songs that get stuck in our heads. The technical scientific term is stuck song syndrome, or an involuntary musical imagery. And essentially it happens often when we're not kind of thinking about it, but if I tell you the name of a couple of songs that often does it, like Who Let the Dogs Out? Who Let the Dogs Out? Or Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. Rah, rah. You know, you've got it already probably in your head. Or if you're a parent, Baby Shark. My apologies. These are songs, these are melodies that are really catchy. They're not too simple, but they're not too complicated either. And often they don't have a clear ending, or at least we don't remember how they end. What's more memorable is the actual melody, but not how it ends. So if you're trying to get the earworm out of your ear, one strategy is to sing it in your head as vividly as possible until you get to the end. And even if you don't remember the end, make it up. So both musicians and music researchers know that we don't see the rhythm, we feel the beat. The parts of our brain that are engaged in beat processing are the same parts of our brain that are engaged in motor planning and motor actions, right? So we actually feel it within our bodies. And in fact, there are a bunch of our biological rhythms that entrain to the rhythm of different beats. So for example, we can see this in our brain waves, we can see it in our heart rates, you know, in our pulse, in our breathing. We tend to sync up with the beat. It actually does sort of trigger the parts of your brain that are involved in movement. Listening to calm music when you are anxious can also lower your heart rate, deepen your breathing, because now all of a sudden your brain is trying to sync up with the music. And if the music has a slower pulse, then that slows down these other autonomic parts of your nervous system. So that's why music can be very calming. And in fact, it's surprising that you can listen to music before surgery and actually need less sedative. And we can, you know, see levels of the cortisol hormone that decrease when people are listening to music, so we know they're less stressed. And we need, you know, fewer sedative drugs in those kinds of situations.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
Legos, the ubiquitous little plastic blocks that have entertained generations of children, are not just for kids. This week, in the Danish town where the Lego company is headquartered, 15 grown-ups were honored for their Lego creations. Welcome to the world of adult fans of Lego. Inside the Lego house, itself a monument to the tiny bricks that built an empire, 15 adult fans of Lego from around the world put their creations on display.
There are thousands and thousands of Lego fans in the world, and it's incredible to meet them and see their passion, the same passion that we have for the Lego brick and what they can do with the Lego brick.
The company said it chose the builders who best challenge the perception of what can be built from Lego bricks.
This is very special. It's not only is it sort of a beautiful model, a beautiful construction of a face, but it has a fantastic and surprising mechanism inside it. So when you open the head up, it reveals this fantastic creation.
The Canadian couple who built it call it inside the mind of an artist.
The fact that I can have an idea in my head of something to build, and I can just, you know, go to my collection, and like a day later, or an hour later, a day later, a week later, I can realize what I was thinking, like just using the pieces I have.
From human shapes to buildings to a typewriter and even a coral reef, the adult Lego fans brought their sometimes fragile creations and carefully rebuilt them for display.
Spent 3 years already working on it. It's just like a real coral reef. It's never done. It's always growing and changing. If my wife would let me, I would make my house just like this. Every room would be like this, but I'm married, so can't do that.
NewsHour and the Pulitzer Center special 10-part series, China, Power and Prosperity, continues throughout the coming week and again next Saturday. You can find all of the reports online at pbs.org/newshour. And to those who celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Happy New Year. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. And by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Be more PBS.